I'm stuck. Oh, too deep.
Hey everyone, Thor here out at Breckenridge, and we just had the best day of the year by far. We're going to go over the conditions, how some of the Chair 6 runs look, and we're going to go over all the stuff you guys need to know about what the upcoming weather forecast is, and if you should come to Breckenridge anytime soon.
I genuinely did not think that yesterday was going to be anything special. The forecast said 2, maybe 3 inches on the front range if we were really lucky. Just a little refresh after a couple inches the day before. Nothing like what I had it last week at Crested Butte where we got 30 inches. That trip, I honestly thought that was going to be the peak of the season. There was deep storm riding, soft landings, and unreal snow quality. I could finally ride up the T-bar and go down the head wall or the glades. And based off the season we had, I came to the conclusion that's probably as good as it's going to get this year. So when I saw that Breck was only projected to get a couple of inches, I figured, hey, maybe I'd get some practice in, work on some stuff that I'm not that great at, maybe some soft turns early if the conditions are good. And then it snowed more and more. And somehow that 2 to 3 inches turned into over 5 and did not stop the entire day we were at the resort. And it completely changed the mountain. There's something about mid to late season storms in Colorado. They don't actually need to be huge to be impactful. And at Breck, that snow actually stacked perfectly. It wasn't just 5 inches sitting on crust. It bonded well, it stayed cold enough, and it didn't get nuked by wind overnight. Because it had given us a couple inches the day before, this had a layer beneath it that made it almost perfect. And under 6 chair, especially heading up toward the Imperial terrain, where all this footage that you're seeing is that we captured, it was unreal. Those steeper pitches, they just hold snow differently, and the wind actually loads the pockets. The traffic spreads out more than people think, and when it refreshes, even by a few inches, everything resets. Every turn felt great. Even slamming into the ground, I was like, you know what? This is the most fun I've had all season. It was one of those days where you stop mid-run and you just start laughing because it wasn't supposed to be this good. And honestly, that's what shocked me. Last week at Crested Butte, which I do have a video up if you wanted to see how the conditions were there, we were riding legit storm totals. It was about 30 inches. It was deep, consistent, full reset conditions. They opened up new terrain. So mentally, I thought that was it. Season highlight secured, especially when I heard that Vail and other resorts this week, anything basically below 9,000 feet got rain instead of snow. Breck was the opposite. 5 inches on a supportive base is actually fast, playful, and confidence building snow. You could charge hard and you weren't bogged down. It was that perfect balance where you feel powerful, but you're still floating through. And honestly, I walked away thinking, this might have been the best day I've had at Breck all season. And the sad part about that is we're almost in spring. And here's the thing though that most people outside Colorado don't realize. I see a ton of threads on Reddit all the time about, oh no, are we gonna get snow next week when I go to Breck? I had this trip planned for a year and it's non-refundable. Well, late March and early April are statistically some of our best snow windows, especially along the front range. The storms carry more moisture this time of year. It wasn't just Breck that got snow, Keystone got dumped, A Basin, everywhere in the front range finally got its taste. And with these temperatures cooperating, you finally get that dense but dreamy powder that fills everything in and makes the mountain playful. This was the first time I rode all season where there was not dry patches on the ground until it, had been skied out. And to be honest, we all know this. We had a rough start of the season. There were warm spells, then coverage. A lot of, is winter over? But Colorado has this pattern where it backloads snow. And right now, the front range is finally cashing in. And that leads us to the question of, well, what's coming next? Are we going to have a strong end of season? Do I need to actually cancel my Breck trip? Well, looking ahead, we do have warmth coming. I just have to be honest about that. Friday and Saturday look dry, warm, and mostly sunny. Good visibility. Sunday is a bit uncertain. I've actually seen a lot of reports online that there's going to be snow in the front range, maybe just a couple of inches that brush the northern mountains near I-70, but confidence from the meteorologist isn't super high yet. The next week, though, gets pretty interesting, and this is where you're going to want to know about things. There are 2 potential storm windows. There's one around March 3rd to 4th, and there's another one around March 6th to 7th. And both systems are somewhat cut off from the main flow, which means they can wobble and be hard to predict. If you know anything about hard to predict snow, just open up Open Snow and check their weather report. No one saw this storm coming in. And that leads us to a translation of, well, those storms on those dates, they could overperform. However, they could also underdeliver. We'll likely see warm temps overall, but even if one of those systems comes through properly, it could finally refresh things again. And There's another possible setup around March 9th to 11th with longer range guidance hinting at cooling temperatures returning. And that's the key. If we can hold on to most of the snow through the warmth and avoid a total meltout at lower elevations and finally get one solid colder follow-up storm, we could be setting up for a really strong finish to the season after such a tremendously bad start. I do know that in a lot of Colorado, it does feel like spring already. People are talking about patio weather, busting out the mountain bikes, which to be fair, they've been doing all winter long anyways. It's really warm in the afternoons, the sun angle is high, but days like yesterday are a reminder. Winter in Colorado and the weather in Colorado doesn't follow a calendar. I think everyone knows that. That's from the state. And sometimes the most memorable days aren't the headline 30-inch storms. Sometimes it's the sleeper refresh, the day you almost didn't go, the 2-inch forecast that quietly drops 5 and transforms the mountain. Today, under 6th chair at Breck, felt elite. Not survival powder, not track chaos, just smooth, fast, confidence-building turns that made the whole mountain feel alive again. If Colorado closes like this with surprise refreshes and well-timed storms, this season could quietly redeem itself in the final stretch. So if you're thinking about packing it in, don't. Because if today proved anything, the best day might not be the biggest storm. It might be the one you didn't see coming. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll try to keep you guys up to date with the weather and how resorts are looking. If you do like this kind of information, do drop me a like, comment, subscribe. Helps out the channel. But until next time, everyone, keep hitting the trails. I'll see you out there.